And that was another big record. Now, after the Let's Ride album, is the Get It On Tonight album, correct?
That is correct.
Tell me about that record.
Get It On Tonight. That was my return back. I wanted to make a feel-good record with the, the up-tempo. And that's kind of the common theme of all these albums. I always like to lead off and start out with something that's up-tempo to make people feel good. And that's what Get It On Tonight was. And I tried something different on the Get It On Tonight album. I wanted to create an album where it was more of an album as opposed to a CD. What do I mean by that? Back when there were vinyl albums, you could have there was an A-side and a B-side. So I took the CD and I split it up where the A-side of the album had 7 to 8 up-tempo party records, and then the side B of the CD, or the second half of the CD, the other 7 to 8 songs were all ballads, so that if you were chilling at home with your girl or whatever and you wanted to throw on some slow jams, it's not like a fast song, slow song, fast song, slow song. You could put on a CD, and for the next 45 minutes, you got just straight slow songs. Or if you wanted to be riding out with your crew in the ride or whatever, you could just put on the up-tempo side, and for 30, 45 minutes, you had all up-tempo records.
Okay, now that album was, of course, big. Now, what made you leave Def Soul in 2003?
Me and Def Soul, we basically parted ways simply because of conflicts of interest. Part of my blessing is the curse as well. Was like I felt like on all these albums, on the 4 albums we talked about, I've had some great up-tempo party records. We talked about This Is How We Do It. We talked about Something for the Honeys and I Like. We talked about Let's Ride. We talked about Get It On Tonight. But we didn't mention any of the ballads that I had. And on those 4 albums, I felt like I had very strong slow jams and ballads. I just so happened that because Def Jam at that time and Def Soul at that time was a young label, they hadn't had great success with slow jams or with ballads, at least with me. And so I, being the first person on that label, was kind of like the guinea pig when it came to learning how to work radio, how to work ballads, how to spend time breaking ballads at radio. They needed, they're so used to having impact records that immediately just start burning up the airwaves. That when you get a ballad and it takes a couple of months to work a ballad, we kind of came at to an impasse, And then later artists that came on Def Soul, the Kelly Prices and Drew Hills, I think they learned that it takes longer, and it takes more finance, and it takes more time to be able to sustain those ballads. But me, because I was first, I felt like, to me, being 4 albums deep, going on to a 5th album, I felt like, man, I can't keep doing these up-tempo records forever. I got to, have some ballads. I got to have some versatility. I need some slow jams. What are we going to do here? And then I think on their part, it was more like, you do the up-tempo records, you make party records, go in and make us another party record. And that was kind of like, I felt like I had a big record in a song called You Must Have Been. I did a video with Gabrielle Union, beautiful video, incredible song. And for some reason, that song just would not take off at radio. And I think it's still a monster song to this day. It's one of my favorites. But that was one of the reasons why we parted ways. When that album was prepared to come out, they said, we don't want to put this album out until you give us some more up-tempo records. And I said, well, I don't want to put our album out until you can break a ballad. And so we parted ways.
Right, so it's basically like they kind of wanted to put you in the box and do what was going to make them the most money, since you were known for making up-tempo tracks.
It's looked at a whole lot of different ways. I just feel like I understand what they wanted. They wanted to do something that had consistently worked for 4 previous albums, and I was ready to break out and try something new. So we were all kind of at fault, and we didn't try and resolve it. We just went ahead and we parted ways.
Okay, now how did you land the role in Fighting Temptations as the singing prison convict?
I basically auditioned for the role. I went and I was auditioning for the part of one of the convicts, and it just so happened that before I left, the director asked me if I would read the part, but to do it in a real high-pitched voice. And so I did it at the interview, and they were laughing. The director of the film was laughing, and pretty much I almost got the part right there on the spot, because they really thought that for me to be that big with a little tiny voice would be really comedic.
Right, and that was definitely a big movie. Now, what is your opinion on the current state of the music industry? Because back when you were first coming out, everything was like lovely, record sales were straight, there was mom and pop shops, and you had the balance of the big chains. But now with iPods and technology, album sales are not selling like they used to, and there's hardly any more mom and pop stores.
Yeah, there is no question that the music industry has changed, and it will continue to change. And the thing is, either you change with it, or you'll be left behind in a place that you thought was a better time. But as far as I'm concerned, music is changing. I believe I'm changing with it. I'm very comfortable with the state of music. I feel sad that the mom and pop stores ended up the way that they did. Hopefully, many of them ended up doing good business ventures, or I know a lot of them got bought out or sold their companies and did a lot of other different things. But I think that this is a time when you have to embrace technology. You have to embrace what is out there as mediums for people to be able to get your music, and you have to capitalize on it, and use it to your benefit. I think if you're making good music, I think people are going to be able to get it, whether they get it from a computer or going to a store to get it. I think that it's about making quality music, and I think that if anything, if the quality of music goes down, I think that that's when the sales ends up going down. Album sales are not just down because of legal downloading. Album sales are down because people don't want to buy albums anymore. People want to buy singles because artists haven't really proven in a lot of ways that they're bigger than one or two singles, that they're going to go and buy a whole album. When somebody now has the ability to just buy one or two songs, they'll do that. So I think now it's about consistency. It's about creating an entire project that somebody wants to go and get and listen to the whole thing.
If that was the case, then they need to revert back to the days of rock and roll before albums when you just had 45s.
Hey, and that's kind of what it is. It's kind of, went back into a cycle all over again where you can basically buy the little 45 singles. So
that's for those of you before cassette tapes, 8 tracks and all that good stuff. This was back when you had to actually buy a record and put on the needle and all of that stuff. Now, in your opinion, what do you think made New Jack Swing and hip hop soul so special?
New Jack was just, I guess it was just different, man. It just came at a time when people wanted to hear something different. I think Teddy Riley, who was kind of the godfather of that whole era, who I highly look up to, it was just something that was new. It was creative and it was funky. It was a whole lot of different things. I can't even explain it. I think that's the beauty of it. When it came, it was like something that hadn't been heard before, and I think he's a creative genius. So, with that being said, I'm grateful to have been a part of that era when, I guess I was considered to be a New Jack artist as well when I came out. And I hold that title, in the highest esteem.
Now, tell me about the new album that you have coming up in the works.
New album's called Let It Rain. I'm working on it. I'm pretty much done with it right now. You'll hear a single, hopefully, coming up soon, and called I Want to Get to Know You. And I feel great about it. And I'll have to get back to you as far as the actual date of when everything is going to be released. But naturally, you can best believe you'll get all the exclusives and stuff so you can be able to share with the Time Machine audience.
All right. Now, is this all you independent, or did you work with any other producers on this album?
As of right now, I've worked with a production company here in Atlanta called Hits RS, and those are my guys out here that I've been working with. They're very talented, and they make hits. There's no question that I think people that have been missing Montell and my music will be extremely pleased when this album comes out. All the different things and sounds that you miss of, hopefully, of my voice, my writing style, my phrasing, all those different things are present there on this project, and I think everybody will be extremely pleased, along with a lot of new stuff and different things that I tried to be creative with on this project.
Okay, now is there a way people can get in contact with you via MySpace or anything?
Absolutely. You can go to www.myspace.com/Montell Jordan, and that's Montell with 2 L's. You can also go to www.montellburnpages.com. That's montellburnpages.com. But I really like to do the MySpace thing. I'm also on Facebook.
It seems like Facebook is like the new MySpace, like celebrities on there. I'm like, wow, it was just for college students. Now when they open up to everybody, now the floodgates are open. So go to those, hit him up, and he'll respond to you. Now, do you have any shout-outs you want to give before we conclude this interview?
Absolutely. I'll give a shout-out to my production team, the Hits RS here in Atlanta, Georgia, and naturally to all your listeners out there that, to keep it locked into the Time Machine, and to my family here in Atlanta, Georgia, and my folks out back on the West Coast in L.A., and the brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Yo, yo.
All right, people, if you're not Greek, don't do that. Ladies and gentlemen, Time Machine, exclusive Army singer Montell Jordan. Montell, thank you for doing this interview and hang on the line.
J. Mace, you my man. I appreciate you.
All right.